The Curie was released during the tail end of one of the most insufferable metas in all of War Robots, the Ocho Newton meta, and ever since then it has remained strong when built and played properly. This is an extensive guide on how to build and play the Curie, covering exactly how the Curie works and going in depth on which weapons, drones, specializations, pilots, and pilot skills to use. I'll only be covering some of the more relevant weapons for Curie, including its signature weapons, and I'll also be rating them based on what works best for it. But not every weapon family will be mentioned, so if you were interested in a particular weapon and I didn't mention it, don't hesitate to leave a comment and ask me about it. I will be showcasing two different Curie throughout this guide, one at Mark II level 1 with a showdown drone at level 4, and specializations at low levels, so it will be more accurate to what a free-to-play experience might be like. On the flip side, the other Curie is at Mark III with a completely maxed drone and maxed out specializations. They will share a pilot however, since Memoriam is a scarce resource. The focus of the guide will be on the Mark II Curie, with a smaller section dedicated to the Mark III one, and whenever the Mark III one is showcased, you will know. And all of the weapons showcased, no matter which Curie is used, will be at Mark II level 1. For the mothership, I will use the Avalon, since it's a good general mothership that's relatively easy to obtain. The guide is targeted towards players of higher leagues, mainly Masters and Champions, so if you are in a lower league, take what I say with a grain of salt for some aspects of Curie. Mainly weapon choices that I say are not worth running on it will perform well in the lower leagues. I will also go over how far to upgrade Curie in order for it to be usable, and if it's worth it for you to invest your resources into it. And make sure to check the pinned comment for any post-video notes, additions, and corrections. And one last thing before I start, a ton of time and effort goes into these guides, so leaving a like or maybe even subscribing would make my day. Thank you so much, and with that out of the way, let's fly right Almost all of Curie's nerfs, except for one, was to its turrets, including an increase of firing rate which essentially cut their damage in half, the turret range decreasing, a further damage decrease to the turrets, and the ability cooldown almost doubling and going from 8 to 14 seconds. These also came with small increases to the lockdown accumulation and a small boost of speed in the ability. Its nerfs seem excessively harsh, but even after them, Curie is still powerful. Its strongest suit is health and can be insanely tanky and hard to take out, especially since its ability grants it more health at low investments than dedicated tanks. Its firepower is decent with 2 heavy weapons, but it's inflated even further with specializations and the turrets, which can still do upwards of 250,000 damage per cycle. Curie's ability is called Blink Support, and when activated, Curie drops 2 turrets 50 meters in front of it, gains extra speed and an extra 140% health for 8 seconds. All of these bonuses expire once the ability ends. The left turret fires at double the speed of the right one, but does less damage per shot, and the right turret fires at half the speed of the left one, but does more damage per shot. And if we compare them, the left turret does end up outperforming the right one, but only by a little bit. Its ability cooldown starts out at 14 seconds, which is average, but there are ways to shorten it. Curie is a jack of all trades. Although it does have mediocre damage, speed, and health while outside of the ability, all of those aspects are increased while in it, and summoning these at the press of a button makes Curie tough to deal with. Is it worth it for you to invest into Curie? I say it's up to you. Curie is good at many roles and can be built accordingly, and I would say it's pretty much safe from nerfs. Plus, it doesn't require too much investment to be good. Although it will not yield good results consistently in Champion League if every aspect is underleveled, and it is also easily replaceable by a specialist. At Mark III, Curie's turrets go from around 275,000 damage per cycle at Mark II level 1 to around 375 damage at Mark III, which is a large boost. The Curie also gets a 10% boost to the amount of extra health it gets in ability, bringing the total to 150%, which essentially brings the total HP from 480,000 in ability to 675,000 in ability, which is also a huge boost, and makes Curie's Mark III worth it in my opinion. So in conclusion, if you enjoy Curie or are just looking for a strong generalist, then it's worth it to invest into Curie. Curie only has one signature pilot, Zoe Bilot, and the Curie is also unusable without her because she decreases Curie's ability cooldown, bringing it from 14 seconds to less than 10 with boosters, which is a huge difference, and also allows for Curie's ability rotation to be much quicker, therefore inflating the damage per minute the turrets can do. It's because of her that I do not recommend any other pilot for Curie. For pilot skills, I would first recommend Death's Survivor, which gives Curie an instant ability replenishment at 50% HP. I will say it can be negated if Curie's HP gets dropped to 50% while already in the ability, but it is still totally worth it and it can save you in a whole bunch of situations. Curie only has one health skill, which is Armor Expert. I still recommend it though. Defense skills like Stubborn Warrior are valuable as well. Damage skills are optional at best, so are module skills, and speed skills are not recommended at all. Curie actually has the damage dealer specialization, which I consider to be the best in the game. I would only use the nuclear amplifier and the overdrive unit. Curie's turrets also stack up the nuclear amp really quickly, which is why it's best in slot. Attack is a direct downgrade for damage dealer, so I would not use it at all, but defense on the other hand is actually valuable, since it gives Curie access to anti-control and the heavy armor kit, enhancing the amount of base health, and therefore increasing the health and ability. For active modules, Curie doesn't really need repair modules due to having its health fluctuate a ton, so phase shift is best at saving you if caught outside the ability, or even in the ability if you are being focused. Before I start on the drone section, I would like to issue an apology to anyone who might have invested into one of the other low-level options, like Shy or Glider. A few of you recommended Showdown instead, which I completely overlooked. Its ability at level 4 is so much better than any other option at low levels, since it repairs 30% of your health when you take 70,000 damage, and this effect replenishes every 5 seconds, making it the first option I would invest your microchips into if you are a low spender or free to play. And then Shy and Glider would be my next two options, but both are vastly inferior to Showdown. For max levels, Shy would be my go-to now, since it essentially doubles Curie's effective health after a couple of skirmishes. I did want to mention that Curie is also the only other bot besides Leo to make full use of Pascal. And Pascal isn't Leo's best in slot, so Pascal is usually only paired with Curie, so it's not a good investment, and Haruko is also good for increasing health. Curie is best as a first or second drop, so that there's time to charge up the nuclear amp. Before engaging enemies, it is best to enhance the turret damage as much as possible, so dropping turrets around cover on close-range maps like Ground Zero, Moon, or Dead City is the best and most annoying way to do this. It is also worth mentioning that Curie does not do well on open maps as a first drop, because snipers force you to use your ability to even walk around, and it's extremely easy to get caught unaware. Curie at Mark II is definitely better suited to sticking with teammates, while at high Mark II and Mark III levels, it can venture out on its own. Retreating to cover before your ability is over, and not engaging anything without your ability ready is very important for survival, no matter what mark your Curie is. I do want to touch on one really annoying part about Curie's design that is hard to avoid, and can get you killed in the worst way. Curie's legs have a habit of locking up in their last position if any height change is detected, and makes it able to launch itself off ledges without any way to recover, and in some cases can prove to be fatal. Super long and super short weapon ranges are not good on Curie, and weapons between 300 meters and 600 meters of maximum range is what you're looking for. Some weapons that perform well on other bots will not perform as well on Curie, because weapons that instantly reach the enemy will perform so much better, since Curie is always weaving through cover. I split this section up into chapters based on the individual weapon families, so you can easily find the one that interests you the most, and I'll also rate them based on how well they perform on Curie. Oh boy, where do I even start? These were the weapons released with Curie, and they were powerful until their nerf. The Subduer's range was decreased by 100 meters, and their fire rate was cut in half. While they can still work on bots with 4 heavy slots, for Curie they're practically unusable. Curie likes weapons that lock onto enemies instantly, and these don't do that by any stretch of the imagination. They have a rust effect that decreases healing by 60%, which is nice, but relatively unuseful. They do roughly 250,000 damage per clip, which is good on paper, but in a real battle, they will hardly get kills due to taking such a long time to do damage. I don't usually mention my league rankings, but while testing this, even the most meta things had a hard time taking the Curie out. But the damage I was doing with the Subduer was so low, and I ranked so badly in the matches, that I actually fell into Master League. So in conclusion, invest into these if you only want assists. For some reason, even though they have mediocre fire rate and take time to travel, I found these to be even more consistent than the Subduers. They have a bonus slowdown effect which doesn't do much, but the burst firepower is good for hit and run scenarios. And they are effective at taking down large chunks of health while the turrets support them. The reload might seem bad, but it actually synergizes with the ability. B tier. These are effective at longer ranges and do over 500,000 damage per clip. The damage that these put out at such a long range means that Curie can make takedowns when out of the ability. Including the fact that these do all gray damage makes these the best mid-range option. They do get knocked off a tier because they take time to travel though. A tier. Solid damage at 600 meters with the damage reaching the enemy instantly makes these worth it as one of the best budget options for Curie. With the added freeze effect, these can do around 200,000 damage per clip quickly. Although they do get outclassed by some other tier 4 options, they are still respectable as a solid choice, especially for tier 3 weapons. B tier. These can actually output as much damage as the Screamers per clip. Although their range is worse at 350 meters, I consider these to be the best budget option for Curie and one of its best in slot weapons. The Redeemer have remained good ever since they came out, and that holds true to this day. They don't have any added effects, but are just pure damage dealers with great consistency. I do want to note that you will have a more difficult time aiming these if you experience a bunch of lag, and since that happens on even the best of devices, I am knocking it down a tier. A tier. I consider these better on Curie than any other option besides the newest meta. These have all the qualities that make it a good weapon for Curie. Good damage that comes in at almost 400,000 per clip, the instant reach plus healing which is incredibly valuable, and perfect accuracy. The healing provides a little bit of a counter to the incoming damage, allowing Curie's tankiness to become even greater. And in addition to perfect accuracy, Athos has a little bit of freedom of movement in aiming, meaning it will stay locked onto the enemy if your crosshair is a little off to the side, which makes it better for lag. S tier. Thank you for making it to the end. Sorry about the change in quality throughout the video. I did switch the graphics to minimal halfway through recording because the lag is absolutely outrageous lately. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy and have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.